Well, good morning, Southern Oregon. It's Alice Lema and Pete Belcastro here at the Real Estate Show. We're both brokers at John L. Scott Real Estate here in Southern Oregon. And oh my gosh, we finished another week, Pete, and it was better this week, wasn't it? How are you doing? Because you did lose your house here 2-3 weeks ago. What's happening in your world?
Well, I think I speak for probably the thousands of people who've been displaced, and time has a way of doing some healing along the way, and you feel a little bit better. You've got more places to go. There's a lot of things happening within that community right now. Alice, FEMA showed up, last week, and it was great, really great to have them here. I've heard of people. I've had some buyers who have received checks from FEMA. I've heard them anywhere from $37,000 up to $78,000. So that money is beginning to come into the area from them. These are for people who did not have insurance. Of course, if you had insurance, it was a different process. But so we're seeing that come into the market now, and it's really going to be interesting to see where we go from here with this in that particular area. Because on today's show, we're really going to tell you what's going on in the market around us, despite the tragedy, Alice. There's still a lot of real estate activity going on, and that's what we want to focus on today. Because, geez, you just wouldn't believe it.
Well, and also today we're going to have our Market Watch episode with Pete and Alice, and we're going to talk about the extension that Governor Brown did on the emergency order for as part of the rent control situation with tenants, extending the non-eviction for non-payment of rent. So what that means is we're going to talk more about another emergency order that Governor Brown did, having to do with extending tenants' rights and what you can do as a landlord and what you can do as a tenant. So we have lots and lots to talk about. It's been a better week, I think, for a lot of us here in Southern Oregon, but we're absorbing the tragedy. We still have the worldwide pandemic, and we still have people that need to buy and sell real estate, and it's just an interesting dynamic to have all at the same time, isn't it?
And then you top that, you've got these low interest rates that are still there around that 2.75%. And then you've got such a low inventory level, Alice, really across the board. And so you put all that together, and you've got the word potpourri, or whatever you want to call that, comes to mind, because there's something literally for everybody across every price spectrum on every board that maybe we've never seen before in our years in the business.
So do not touch that dial. We're going to take a quick break to have a word from one of our sponsors, and Alice and Pete will right back with Market Watch on the Real Estate Show. Don't touch that dial. Well, welcome back, Southern Oregon, to the Real Estate Show. I'm Alice Lema here with my friend and partner in real estate crime. Well, actually, we don't do real estate crime. That was about, but you know what I mean. Pete and Alice, we're here. We're both brokers at John L. Scott, Southern Oregon. And we want to start talking about our Market Watch episode and some of the things that are going on with landlord and tenants, and also the really active real estate market. Pete, have you just been so busy?
Well, it's amazing. The week of the fire, which was now 2 weeks ago, the fire occurred on a Tuesday, Wednesday, through that period, and really kind of real estate is kind of, I didn't say it stopped, but it certainly kind of jolted itself maybe back to reality a little bit there for the week. But then things started to pick back up, and here we are, week 3 after it's over. In Jackson County this last week had 107 pending sales go, which is where it was prior to the fire. We were in the hundreds. Remember that, Al? We were right up there. So when you look at that, nothing's really changed despite what's happened. There were 76 closed sales last week in Jackson County, and guess what? 38 of the 76, you know what they were? They were above 350,000 again. So again, our market, beginning last June, it has continued that the majority of our sales each week are the 350,000 and above, and that did not happen prior to this. So we've really seen a market change really over the summer, and here we are in the fall, and it looks like it's going to continue just right where it was. What do you think?
Well, it's very interesting, and each little price band, if you will, what real estate agents call price bands, each little parfait section of prices has its own dynamics. And if you're in a situation where you're qualified to buy under 300, you're going to have to fight like cats and dogs and really have extra money and pay your own closing costs and maybe even take a house that was not your first choice just so you could get something. And the reason it's, in my opinion, a worthwhile fight is because we're not going to have these 2.3% interest rates, 2.6% interest rates. And if you are a investor, you can buy a non-owner occupied, which means you don't live there and you have to pay higher interest rate and do a higher down payment. But I have investors closing at 3.2% buying residential rental buildings at 3.2% interest. So it's worth it to go in there and fight like cats and dogs to get the property so that you can take advantage of this historic opportunity. And then we have, like you said, the folks that are getting their insurance checks and they're in the market now. They are moving quickly, and so they're causing a lot more competition.
Okay, let me ask you, where are you seeing it happen? What particular, is there a particular area that you're seeing the insurance money is being used right now, or
you mean what zip code are they buying in?
Yeah, what are they buying right now? Because there's not much.
I have fire victims that I've just put in mobile home parks. We've had people who go right back into mobile home parks. We've had people go into East Medford single family home. We have some ranches. People had enough insurance, or they're grouping their purchase together like they, because see, we still have the corona. That's the thing. We still have the pandemic, and people are still wanting to get their grandmas and their babies and move a little bit out into the country. And, you know, that whole thing is still going on. So some of the fire victims are going that direction into the higher priced rural properties.
Well, and that's going to continue. Well, what I found is that we talked about multiple offers. I think this week during our John Scott office meeting, they showed a graph that right now the average across the country is like 3.2 offers per listing. So we're getting, I think, my experience, more than that, aren't we?
Yeah, I'm seeing 4 to 7 on a lot of them.
Okay.
4 to 7 offers. Yeah.
Well, last week I had offers, and this is in Klamath Falls, where I was working. We had 2 couples. We were up against 7 offers on one, up against 4 offers on another. By the time we got to the third one, we said, we're not losing this one. And, you know, we ended up getting it. We were against 3 other offers in that one there, and we won. And how do you win those things? You go above the price. You, as you just said earlier, you pay your own closing costs, et cetera, because you're up against so much competition even there now. So we're seeing that multiplied across all 3 of our counties right now in those prices.
Well, and if you're competing against fire victims, that makes it even harder because a lot of them are cash. They're in a big hurry. They're going to do a really quick close because they're in a hotel or they're in their brother-in-law's RV or something like that. So if you're in the market to buy right now and you're just battle weary and you want to take a break, well, I don't recommend that. But if you end up doing that, if you just give a few months to let these fire victim buyers wash out of the market so that they're not competing with you anymore, I think it's going to be a little bit easier, but we don't know what the market conditions will be. So that's why I'm a big fan of just doing it now and going ahead and fighting.
Well, you never know what, I think a lot of people have been predicting we're going to have a surge in listings in October and November. And I'm telling you, I hope that's true. Because
we need them. Yeah.
We're down. Listen, we're down to 351 residential listings. That's rural and rural and city listings in Jackson County. 351, Alice. That's just nothing. Josephine County is down to 160, and Klamath County is 197. That's total listings, residential listings.
But we have so many coming. And all the agents I talk to, we're all emailing each other. We have this thing we call coming soon. And I think just me personally, I have 4 in the next 2 weeks. And this is fall.
All right. And tell me where they're coming from. Are they local people leaving? Is it a family thing? Or because you always talk about some people have to sell. Circumstances force them to do this thing. Is that what you're seeing, or what's going on with that?
So my personal business is a mix. I have people that passed away, and I couldn't talk the families into keeping them as rentals. because they just don't want to deal with that. So I've got that going on. And then we just have people that don't want to live in Southern Oregon anymore. Some of our locals that have been here a long time, they're just over the situation with the fires. They don't like a lot of the traffic now because they were here in the 70s when there were only 5 cars at a stop sign.
Yeah.
And they just don't want to do it. I have so many people leaving and going to Idaho, they're going to Wyoming, they're going to Montana. And then we just have people that are moving to get a better, bigger house here in Southern Oregon. So I've got, me personally, I have scenarios right now.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, and they're all plausible. I mean, they're all good reasons to do what we're doing. The issue is going to be, are we going to get them on the market, and what prices are they going to be? Because I think we're also seeing now, as you said, when you have multiple offers, and I've experienced in my own making offers, is that we're going above prices, that we're going above the list price. So that's going to up prices here. We also are going to see, I think this year, or in the metro area, anyway, double-digit increases, and that's what we're afraid of. By the way, next week on our show, Dave Aerosmith, Jackson County's assessor, the tax guy, is going to be with us, and Guy Giles, we're going to talk about this very issue with that. And we're so curious as to what prices have done in Jackson County. You know, where have we gone in 2020? It's such a crazy year, such a crazy market. I have no idea where those numbers are going to go. I just don't. But right now, we are seeing double-digit increases, Alice, and that's not really good for a whole lot of reasons that it just forces a lot of people out of the market.
Well, and Southern Oregon goes through fits and starts in the housing prices. You know, we're very volatile. We don't have a ton of economic strength in Southern Oregon the way San Jose does, or Portland, or although maybe Portland's not the right example right now, but our locals are the baseline. So whatever our local wages and our local workforce, that really is one of the predominant effects on our prices. And then we have people coming from out of town, or spikes because of fire insurance. So I'm going to wait and see, but I'm going to make another prediction, because you know how I love doing that we are going to get more listings this winter, and it's not going to be a slow, quiet winter, and that sometime next spring or next summer, the corona situation and the fire situation is going to level off, and I don't think we're going to go down, but I think we're going to stop going up, and we're going to level off.
Okay, well, I hope you're right out of there. You know, talking about net migrations and what's happening around the country, we're seeing it here, obviously, as people moving here from metro areas to get away from it. So the top 5 metro areas in the country, by the way, Alice, who've lost populations, interesting. New York, #1, San Francisco, Seattle, Boston, and Portland. Who are the areas that have gained the most?
And also Los Angeles is in that.
Okay, it didn't make the top 5. It's probably #6. But where are they going? They're going to Jacksonville, Salt Lake City, Sacramento, Kansas City, Milwaukee, and you go down the line, they end up in Medford too. So we're
on the list again.
We're on the list. We're going to that, and that is going to drive again and continue to drive the market up. So, you know, as we just, I've never seen. Well, you and I have both been doing this 13 years, right around there, and we've never seen so much happening at the same time. We've never had a disaster like we lost 3,300 plus homes, as we heard last week when Brad Bennington was with us. By the way, this week I have seen, and I know we're going to break coming up here, but I have seen people this week in hazmat suits in the burn areas. Looks like maybe some cleanup is just at the beginning, Alice. I don't know, but we know there are thousands of cubic yard of contaminated materials that have to be moved. But at least we're seeing the beginning, at least, of some movement. I see business people out there. I've seen just looking around. A lot of things have been fenced off. And so there is beginning to be the beginning of the rise of the phoenix, as you might say, because they're just at the initial stages of it. And we have a long, long way to go there before we even get close to anyway, what it was like on September the 7th around here, right? It was a totally different world where we are now.
Well, and those hazardous cleanups are complicated. They're expensive. We're lucky that FEMA's paying for a lot of that or all of it. I have to go back and check, but they're
Uh-huh.
heavily involved in financing that cleanup and disposal of all that hazardous waste. It's going to be a big deal. I think it's going to be a couple of years, but we'll see. We'll see. It's just, and then we've had a couple of spot fires. We've had another couple of things happen. Somebody said there was a small one in Paradise this week, and some of those people had just rebuilt. And I never got the final word if how bad it was. But I think that all makes people try to reassess where they live, how they live, and who they live with.
Mm-hmm.
Go try to
And
buy an RV right now, because
well,
a lot of us just, if we have to book out of here again, we want it fully loaded.
well, the good thing that's going to come out of this, I hope, is that don't use what I did, but please be better prepared. Is to get that. I've talked to a lot of people about that and getting your stuff together, just in case, because you never think it's going to happen to you, and then boom, all of a sudden it does, and you're not prepared, and that's what
And
happens.
have all your documents on the cloud. This
Yeah.
idea of running around the house, grabbing your underwear, your children, and your special papers.
Computer.
You don't have time for that. And you end up I get one of my friends grabbed her underwear, which I said, you could have bought that at Walmart the next day. So, but when you're panicking, see, that's the whole thing. So now it's quiet. Think about your go box and put your stuff on the cloud. So we're going to take a quick break from one of our much appreciated sponsors. Pete and Alice will be right back. Don't touch that dial. Well, welcome back to the Real Estate Show. Pete Belcastro, Alice Lema. We're both brokers here at John L. Scott, Southern Oregon. You can also catch all of our past episodes on our website, realestateshowsoregon.com. Lots and lots of great content there. And there will be a repeat of this broadcast tomorrow, Sunday at 6 p.m. So you're catching up with Pete and Alice today. We're doing a Market Watch episode talking about not only the effects of the fire and the corona, but we're also going to talk about some of the landlord-tenant stuff that's happening. Because, Pete, we did have some tenants that had their buildings burned down. Have you had any interaction with those folks?
Not had that, but hasn't it been an interesting year for landlords? Think about this. I mean, this is 2020. We started off, the legislature changed the rules, and now we've having, the governor is executive orders. It has been a tough year for landlords, and I have a lot of empathy for them right now, especially if you're trying to sell it. And also remember, if you have a tenant on the property you want to buy, you're going to have a long close. And Alice, we need to keep reminding people that, because they don't want to wait 90 days, as you know. But that's just the way it is. And I know it's really affected some sales. People can't wait 90 days. So the landlords and the tenants, that part of it is pretty complicated. But as you say, you were with a lot of landlords. Have they've had like a punch 1-2 this year, I think.
Yeah, 1, 2, 3, 4. But
okay.
but part of being a successful landlord in Southern Oregon is being able to adapt to the new laws and the new market conditions. And anybody who can weather those changes in a nimble fashion will, I think, be very, very profitable. Plus, I think the world needs more good landlords. As many of the new laws that I think were kind of overreaching, some of them were spot on, and it evens the playing field. And now all the tenants and the landlords understand what the rules are, and that's not necessarily a bad thing. But extending the eviction for non-payment because of the corona until the end of December, I think that is going to break the bank on some landlords. And part of what I've been worried about all summer is that come fall, we're going to start seeing more businesses fail. We're going to start see commercial real estate really tank, and we're just going to see business owners just give up and not be able to move forward. And some of them are going to be landlords who have mortgages, and if their tenants are not paying, then it's really going to be hurtful to them financially.
Mm-hmm. No, I think you're right. I wonder what it's also doing to vacancy. The vacancy rate again before on September the 7th was around 2% in Jackson County and Southern Oregon in general. So here we are now 3 weeks later. I bet that rate has gone down even further. I would assume. And what do you think about rental prices? What do they do?
So I can speak to that. I have fire victims with these huge rental allowances, and they don't smoke, they don't have pets, they don't have any bad habits, they're older than me, and my landlord pool gets a list from me of people who are fire victims that need housing, and one of them just got a spot outside of Medford, and we won't say where, but the insurance company is going to pay $1,600 a month on their behalf. It's $1,100 a month apartment.
Okay.
And the insurance company doesn't care. The insurance company doesn't care.
How long will they pay that for, Alice, as an example?
The insurance company will pay a year, but the guy's house will be built in 9 months.
Okay, but they're going to pay that. So I'm assuming that there are a lot of people. Again, you had to have had insurance first.
A lot of it.
That was one of the first things that I know that my adjuster said to me was, do you have a place to go? Do you need rental? Do you need assistance in housing? And I was fortunate not to, but I'm sure a lot of people obviously did. So they'll pay it for a year. I didn't know. I wondered how long they would actually pay that rent.
Well, it depends on your policy, but a lot of these fire victims got $5,000 to $10,000 check immediately, so they could do hotel, rental car, buy underwear, and just to land on their feet for a couple of weeks and then sort things out. So a lot of the homes that were on the market that were vacant now have kind of accidental tenants in them. The owners are letting fire victims stay there. So that's a whole thing, because a lot of these people did not sign rental agreements, and the state of Oregon, if you did this to be a good Samaritan, the state of Oregon considers them tenants, and they have tenants' rights, even if there's no document and there's no money being paid. And so, but the house is still for sale. So then we have kind of a complicated situation, but it's all working. And we're getting buyers that will let the fire victims stay long enough, let the escrow extend long enough so that we can process the fire victims into another location. But if you're a tenant right now and you don't have a place to live, whether you're a fire victim or not, the rents are going to be astronomical, in my opinion, for about 6 to 9 months. And then they'll go back to normal. But it's just like throw up time, the prices people are willing to pay. And then the landlords want that. That's what the landlords start to expect now.
But remember, landlords can only rent rates with existing people by so much per year, right?
Right. But I'm saying if you move out of a place, then right. Or you're in a situation where you're getting divorced or something, life changes and you think you're just going to go get an apartment, you better go out there and look, because the landlord can charge market value if nobody's living there.
Well, that's the thing. I was thinking too, you're right. There are a lot of vacant homes that were on the market, have been filled by people doing this, exactly what you say. But you say they still have the tenants' rights in there, so you just can't, you have to work together, I suppose. Everybody's going to have to work together to sell those places. But geez, if you move into it, and then you sell it quickly, I can just see lots of problems there too.
Well, but see, I have listings and I have buyers with those clauses in the contracts now, where the owners are accommodating in the offer or the counter offer. The fire victims are being accommodated. So be prepared for that if you're buying. And if you're selling and you have somebody staying there, you need to talk to probably a landlord tenant attorney, somebody from the landlord association, your realtor. You need a property manager.
Well, I'm really glad that you're doing that. And I'm really glad to hear that people are stepping up in all sorts of ways in our community to help here. And it's nice to see that landlords and vacant properties are trying to help the people, because we have, again, 3,300 units have been lost. And so anything is helpful. But again, it has an effect on the market. What do you call it? The dribble down effect of every kind of thing that we do. There's a reaction or sub-reaction to what's happening. And I think the landlord market, we'll have to get Danielle Remley with us again soon here.
That's a great idea. Yeah, from Sterling West. Yeah.
With the rental market, because that's where so many people have got to go first. And it's going to affect the housing market again. If people are inside, we don't have able to show and things like that. we're down so far in listings that it just complicates it more. And as you said earlier, this is what's driving up prices and everything and the competition around us. So what are you telling your buyers here as we go through this? We just have to be better prepared as buyers and realtors, don't we, in this market?
Yeah, I think every situation's a little bit different. And I have 5 new buyers that were tenants. Their apartment buildings burned down, but they had renter insurance. So I've got a couple of kids. Well, I'm old, so I call everybody a kid.
Yeah.
I have a couple of millennial folks. They have $40,000 in their life that they didn't have before. They move back in with mom and dad, and they get to buy a house. And they have $40,000 for a down payment. So all of a sudden, they can qualify for a $325,000 house, which is actually pretty good in Medford. That's a pretty decent house. So so we've got a whole bunch of folks like that are going to be accidental homeowners because of this tragedy.
And you had a really good reminder there, renter's insurance. And I know a lot of people didn't have it. But if you're out there in an apartment somewhere, wherever you are in Southern Oregon or anywhere you hear us, get the renter's insurance. I think that's, we put it off. It's something you don't want to do maybe, but boy, what those people that you just described, Alice, are very smart and very lucky, and they're going to be able to go on with their lives a whole lot easier and pick up their lives after this because they have the renter's insurance. They were smart. In this particular case, smart real estate consumer, they were a smart renter consumer. And that really makes a difference, obviously, in those people's lives. So good for them. I mean, having that renter's insurance, because it's not real popular, and it's a great line, insurance is only popular when you need it. It's boring until you need it. And haven't we talked about insurance more in the last 2 weeks than we ever have in the previous year? We've talked about
and you know what? It's holding up closings, because even if we had something in escrow during the fire, there was the insurance moratorium, which the insurance industry does. Even when it was in Paradise, they did a moratorium on policies all the way up to Grants Pass. We couldn't get insurance. We couldn't close. So that whole thing happened again. But one of the things we weren't prepared for this time was last week, I had 2 that almost didn't close because 12 hours before we were due to record, the insurance company said, I need proof of life. Somebody has to go out and photograph the house inside and out. And it's like, what do you mean? Everybody signed, we're done. And it's like, no, we want this right now. So we did it. The owners were gone, already moved out, so they couldn't do it. So I have photographers on my staff, so they went out and did it. And I sent them out the next day, and we did all the rest of our escrows, and we proactively sent them to the insurance companies and the lenders ahead of time, because nobody tells you that they're going to do this at the last minute. So insurance can be a big holdup.
That was smart. And I had to go out to Jacksonville and do the same thing, as they wanted a picture, seriously, of the inside of the house, not the outside. They wanted an inside picture of the house to prove to the underwriter that it was still standing, even though the fire was, 20 miles away.
Yeah, proof of life. There might be smoke damage. And I said, okay, whatever you want, Mr. and Mrs. Insurance people, we will just hop to it. But that can be a real interesting thing. So one of the things we're telling people right now is, if you're in escrow, plan on not closing on time. And if you close on time, groovy, but do not order your trucks and all your help for the day of closing. Or even, I would say, I would wait like 3 days. I would try to move 3 days after your estimated closing date, because it's just too weird out there right now between the COVID and the fires.
Well, we're seeing it. We're experiencing it. Our clients are living it, and each person's different, and I understand that. But you've got some really good points there, and I hope people do take that up. By the way, I know we got a break coming up here. The Oregon Association of Realtors still has their wildfire fund available to anybody who lost a home, or even if you were a renter, up to $1,000. I have been received by that, and I appreciate that very much. So check awesome. OregonRealtors.org. It's right on the homepage. If you've lost anything, please go do that. Again, wonderful people, so many people, thousands of people all across the country really are sending money and supporting people who've lost everything. So we want to make sure that we we can support them as well. It's been a tragic thing, but boy, we're all going to be better. In the end, Alice, we're all going to come out of this. So many of us, and we got help here. Our communities are together. People are trying to come together. We have a long way to go, but I'm encouraged by what we're seeing here. Just 3 weeks afterwards, a lot of rebounding, still a lot of tragedy and a lot of heartache, but we're pretty resilient, and I think we're going to come out okay. By the way, we want to talk also, there's a lot of groups going on right now talking about how to rebuild, where we're going to rebuild, what we're going to do. All that thing is out there. So we're hoping it'll be a good future for us.
Okay, we'll be right back with a message from our sponsors. Pete and Alice will be here. Do not touch that dial. Well, welcome back to the Real Estate Show. I'm Alice Lema here with Pete Belcastro. We're both brokers at John L. Scott here in Southern Oregon, and we just have such an interesting real estate environment. We've got fall coming up. The school sort of started. A lot of people didn't send their kids to school. That is having an impact on housing sales, don't you think, Pete?
Yeah, and remember, a lot of the private schools are in session. A lot of the public schools are not. So we're seeing that, yes. And, so many parents, I talk with business owners who really have a difficult time, as you talked about reopening and opening a full higher capacity, because a lot of the people are home with kids because they can't afford the child care that we have, and others. And so, business owners, a lot of them can't do much more than what they're doing. And as you talked about, maybe we're going to see a lot of more closures. Commercial real estate activity is going to change in the fall and winter. I think you're right on that, Alice. Just parents need a break, and I don't know how else you do it, and I don't know what you do, but so many of them have been unable to work because of kids and responsibilities at home, and that affects really everything. How much money you can earn as a family, what your next steps are, and until the pandemic, as you say, is still out there, even though we've been hit by tragedy. It is still out there, and it's still affecting everything that we do in business and real estate and school and education. It's still there. It's not going to go away.
It is all very intertwined, isn't it? And I'm having a different experience with the parents that I'm working with than you are. So I find this very interesting. This is why people should listen to our show, because we are very real time. This is what's happening today in the Southern Oregon market. And so where a lot of the folks you're talking about are having issues with the kids not being in school, a lot of the parents that I'm working with don't want their kids to go back to school ever.
Interesting.
And it's a very interesting thing that they've done is they've made arrangements with other parents, and they're taking homeschooling to up to scale. So they're doing their own kind of homeschool classrooms, and one of them is out in the Applegate, and they have a faith-based situation. I've got 2 or 3 families in Greater Medford neighbors, and they have one of the people's houses is the classroom, and everybody goes there. And they have one of them does have a real teacher who did not want to go back to school, who quit her job, and she is now their private teacher. Others have homeschooling experience, and they're using those online courses to guide them. They've just worked it out. It's really quite interesting. And then they've got somebody else kind of in the group that does the childcare.
Well,
and they've worked it out organically on their own.
They're taking control of their life and their situation, and I applaud them for that. I've never not heard that, so that's really good. No,
it's shocking, and so it's changing the houses people buy, because this is how I find out about stuff. Is people call me up and they go, "Well, I want to sell this house because I need a bigger house because I'm going to be the house in the neighborhood that all the work from home people come to, so they have a quiet space, so they don't have dogs barking and kids screaming." And so 2 of my bedrooms I'm renting out to the neighborhood for work at home. And then my kids are going to so-and-so's for school. Like, that's what they're doing. And so they're buying different houses. Isn't that interesting?
It's just showing the ingenuity of what you can do. And
that's a good word, ingenuity. Yeah.
And it is. And they're taking control of your own life, because the situation around us, look at this election coming up, how crazy this is going to be too. You throw that into this mix,
we haven't even had time to talk about that.
I know. Anyway,
Yeah.
so as we get out of this show this week, and of course, this is October has just started, so we're still in the fall here, and just beginning of the fall. But the big things to look at are going to be, the available inventory. Are we going to see more as a buyer? Alice, as
Yes,
we telling you, you got to be ready
I
to
think
buy.
so.
You've got to go up against. You're going to go up against many times multiple offers, and so be prepared for that. But again, this can all be done. You just can't ever give up. I think that's the biggest thing. I know sometimes it gets so frustrating for buyers, and I'm with a lot of them, and they want this, or we're up against much, we can't do this. But in the end, you prevail because you just never give up, and something will come your way. I'm just hoping that you're right, that we see more listings. We can't get along with 350 in Jackson County for very long. There's just too much demand. That's what's going to drive the prices up across the country. We talked at the beginning of the show, Alice, about the migration patterns. We're seeing people coming into smaller areas like ours. It's happening all over the country, not just in the West. We're seeing double-digit increases in all parts of the country now because of this migration that has been started in our country since the pandemic began, and it's affecting a whole lot of things. It's affecting our market as well, and we're a desirable place. So I think it's going to be so fascinating this next week, Alice, to see when we come back next week and see what in the world have we experienced this week.
And watching what's going on nationally does help us here in Southern Oregon. But I want to just weigh in on the price increases, because I'm watching price decreases. I see a leveling out nationally, and this is where this is what I think is going to happen in the next 2 years. Is because we've already had more than a 10% drop in prices in New York, Portland, Seattle. I want to say either LA or Orange County, but the big cities, especially Minneapolis, people that are having civil unrest are losing property value. Like it's really tanking. It's tanking fast. And as people go into the suburbs of those areas, or they come to places like Southern Oregon, ours elevates. But I bet you a donut from Reno that this time next year or 24 months, we're just going to have a more level playing field nationwide. That it's not going to be that this costs this in New York and this costs that in Oregon, that it's going to be more even, because people can work from home. It's not going to be location with your job anymore. It's going to be location with your lifestyle. And I just think the prices are going to even out.
Lifestyle is probably, and I think that's lifestyle and affordability. Let's throw affordability in there too. For a lot
taxes,
of people,
it's going to be lifestyle and how low can I go on my state taxes and my property taxes.
Okay. I think you're right on there. We'll see. I hope we'll see how we're going to see how it all comes out. But I think you're right on with it. A lot of things going on. Certainly be prepared. And the market continues to tell us what it's doing. Low interest rates, low inventory, all those things have really combined to make it a dynamic cauldron of things. We're still seeing a lot of activity. So as Alice says, stand by, put the hat on, loosen it, tighten up, because we're going to be on a ride here for the next, I think, through the end, certainly through the election, and we'll see beyond that.
But as Pete says, don't give up. Whether you're buying or selling, hang in there. If your current strategy isn't working, just do another one and you will prevail. You will get the house.
Absolutely.
You will sell the house.
Yeah, it will. Sell that thing.
Okay. All right. Have a beautiful Southern Oregon weekend. It's Alice Lema, Pete Belcastro saying goodbye. Watch for a repeat of this show tomorrow, Sunday at 6 p.m. Otherwise, make it a beautiful day, and just tell everybody that you love and care about them, because you never know what tomorrow's going to bring. Right, Pete?
Absolutely.
All right. Bye now.